Is this them? What does that name tag say?
Apparently you can cut ice with my nipples. I don't know. Didn't realize.
Oh, you can cut ice with my nipples. Is that him speaking? That's either him or Paleo. And that does not spell paleo. Oh, Chris is Black Griffin. Oh my god. So is this in retaliation to that? Okay. Has anybody, I'm guessing, a lot of people will have already seen the Saberspark allegations. But if you don't know what that is, okay, I'm going to go over it. So Saberspark is a YouTuber who basically, he talks about cartoons, he talks about furries and like stuff like this in like cartoon shows. A little bit of slop, kind of like sexualized, like thumbnails. Furry bait? He vehemently denies being a furry. He got popular back in the day for explaining the Brony community, and his experience in the Brony community. But despite being a Brony, he vehemently denies being a furry, and he ruthlessly attacks them, okay? Feels like self-hatred to me. Sounds like self-hatred to me, but I mean, yeah.
Where Belle's like kissing I don't think she kisses Beast, but she cries over his body because he finally discovers true love. I get the same.
Okay, so we get this kind of individual, right? We see the kind of archetype that we're going for here. Kind of like Disney adult, plus My Little Pony, plus hatred of furries. He's my enemy. He's mine too, okay? So anyway, if you could believe it, the My Little Pony guy defended Black Griffin a little while ago, okay? He's been a friend. If you don't know about the Black Griffin situation, okay, he was caught, like, having conversations with a 14-year-old online and then, you know, going on to, like, publicly date them when they were adults. Okay, so when he was asked about it, you know, like a year ago, it's a terrible situation full of bad faith actors who are claiming to know the truth. To support your question, no, I do not support. It's something that unfortunately me and my family know all too well, and I'd rather die than defend anyone guilty of that. It feels like a knife in my gut, knowing my personal history that I choose to keep private. Okay, so this guy, big hater. He hates. Okay, so this guy, okay, he's not a fan of, obviously, his family history. He's got a personal relationship to this. He would never, okay? People claim such slanderous things about me because they're working off misinformation, but hey, that's the internet for you. It rarely has the full story. That was the situation for Quite, but thankfully he was vindicated. And so he's talking about misinformation here. He's talking about how he'd never defend somebody who committed or was like doing any kind of grooming. I mean, he was kind of like talking with a 14-year-old girl who he later went on to date. But anyway. So I just thought this was notable due to his strong personal stance against any form of, presumably, or, in the case of Black Griffin, e-rape. Ooh. Anyway, this Twitter post dropped about him earlier, okay? Trigger warning, mentions the following is a testimony of by coerced consent between Saberspark and a victim in said testimony. Ho, ho, ho! There were two isolated incidents in 2012 and 2013. This will all be in a video expose by I Love Kim Possible a Lot, releasing today. Okay? Let's go over this a little bit. Who could have imagined? At the same time he was making those great videos about being a My Little Pony enjoyer, he was also having sexual contact with women. That's the most surprising part. That's the most surprising part. Okay, so Let's have a gander. Obviously, I've kind of dressed it up in a certain framing. I'm not actually sure what the veracity of these are, though. Right? I wanted to go in blind. That's right. I wanted to do react content to breaking news about an accusation towards a potentially innocent man. Let's go! Okay. So, I became a fan of Saberspark. Okay, I don't know if this is actually anonymous. Are they? Or do they give their name? Huh. And the victim in said testimony. Okay. I don't know if they actually give their name then. So, I became a fan of Saberspark when I was in high school. I found his essay titled Ballad of the Brony back in 2011. What kind of a disgusting, wretched, smelly is getting a wet by watching a guy's fucking YouTube essay titled Ballad of the Brony? That's the first question that I've ever done first brush. Okay, interesting. On we go. After graduating and turning 18, I added him on Skype to tell him I was a big fan of his. He added me back almost instantly. We had a conversation, ending with him giving me his phone number, which was a really big deal to me at the time, since this was the first time interacting with any sort of celebrity. 2011. It seems to be relatively consistent. He's kind of trailing off now. But if you follow this back, I mean, how many subscribers would he have had? How many subscribers would he have had? Next page. No. Oh. Don't worry. Okay, so it's not clear, but it doesn't seem like he's any kind of celebrity. 7 years later. 7 years later. He's got 654,000 subscribers. I don't know if I'd be comfortable calling him like a celebrity. Especially, yeah. Game Grumps started in like 2009. I mean, yeah. So in terms of what this woman's saying, first time I'd interacted with any kind of celebrity. I don't know about that. Anyway, since it's the first time interacting with any sort of celebrity. Okay. I developed a parasocial crush on him due to being starstruck, which was something that he was aware of. Okay. We would talk on Skype and text each other semi-frequently leading up to the first time meeting him. I mean, I became a fan in high school, watched it in 2011. How long were you watching this guy for? And you developed a parasocial crush on him through his video essays. Does he even show his face? Okay. So we talk on Skype and text each other semi-frequently, leading up to the first time meeting him. So in 2012, I went to my first pony convention. The smell. Oh my god. I mean, here's the thing. No, he does not show his face. Yeah. You become a fan of him in 2011. And then when you graduate and then turn 18, you kind of send him a message. You've been a fan of him for what? A few months at that point? And you had this much of a huge parasocial crush. Being starstruck. Okay. Went to my first pony convention. This was my first time ever traveling by myself, and was soon after the two of us became friends. I mean, you chatted on Skype. But okay, anyway. Okay. When I met up with him in person, he invited me to his hotel room. Okay. And he showed me the video he was editing on his laptop, causing me to internally geek out. I was really nervous being alone in a hotel room with someone I was a huge fan of and had a crush on, but I tried to play it cool. He was 4 to 5 years older than me, making me feel more nervous and out of place. He would bring up the prospect of the two of us dating, and how it didn't feel right for us to do so. So he'd bring that up apropos of nothing. Would he? I mean, you've talked for like a good while before this. Then you've met up for the first time, and he's invited you to his hotel room. You've said yes. And then he's going up there and saying that I'm not sure about the prospects of us dating. Is he saying that out of nowhere? Or is he saying that because that has been a theme in your in your conversations before, potentially? Or has he just been, like, friendly?
You got dicked. Okay, bro, you're getting too big for your boots.
Nate tipped $2 through Super Chat. Freshly raped teen.
Thank you, Nate, for the 2. Also, this is the thing. If he's just getting you up to the hotel room to get you in private and, like, try to, like, rape you or whatever, like, I don't know if he'd be, like, wasting time showing you his YouTube video that he was editing. And you've agreed to meet up here. Okay. Maybe I'm picking up on things that aren't there, and maybe I think that, you know, they're trying to make it insidious in a way that it isn't. After that, he almost immediately initiated making out with me and guided me to his bed. In this moment, he did not directly ask me for consent. Okay? I was thrown onto his bed, and he would insert himself into me. Okay. Saberspark was significantly larger than me. I was an 80-something pound girl. 80-something pound girl, 18-year-old girl, and I physically could not stop him. Or did you say, like, no? Or did you make out with him, like, back? Like, I empathize with this. Obviously, if things are moving, like, quickly or in a direction you don't like, I understand that's obviously awkward. And that's, like, you know, you can feel a little bit kind of, a little bit kind of, like, scared, even, right? It's an awkward situation. But, yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff is being left out. And also, did you mention that you didn't, like, want to? Like, most sex doesn't happen with, like, verbal consent, right? 80 pounds, what a fatty. She should stop eating. Okay. I mean, this is going to be true of, like, any interaction that you have with a man. But how old is she now? This was, like, in 2012, and she was 18. Now it's 2025. She's 31. She's 31. Okay. Because this sounds like something that would have been written by somebody who was 18 currently, right? I don't know. Okay. I felt extremely nervous and uncomfortable. Fair play. Because I'd never experienced having any sort of sexual intimacy with anybody, with somebody I was not dating before. So you have had, okay, but you hadn't had, like, a hookup. Okay? Much less someone I just met. I was very new to meeting people in general, meeting people online in general. Okay? In that moment, I laid there, disassociating, as it felt very wrong, while trying to rationalize it in my head to convince myself it was a safe and normal encounter. Okay? Well, it seems like you're kind of, like, having a little bit of internal panic. It seems like you didn't necessarily expect there to be anything sexual when he invited you up to his hotel room, but it seems like he's kind of, you know, putting out feelers there. And it's not even like, you know, he's not given any false illusion about dating, right? This isn't an instance of, like, coercive rape. Because he's saying right before this, he'd bring up the prospect of us dating and how it didn't feel right for us to do so. He's not pretending there's a relationship on the other end of this. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Okay. He rushed off to clean and finish himself. And what? There is so much detail being left out. Okay. He came off to clean and finish himself and came back to the bed and offered me a handshake saying, "Friends?" I've done the same move, okay? I've done the same move. You're in there, okay? It's a one-night stand, just a hook-up in the hotel room at the Brony convention. You shagger. You go into the bathroom, clean yourself up. You come back out. Thank you for your time. Just friends, yeah? You just have to clarify. You just have to clarify it, look him up. Nah, man, he's guilty for that. Fuck. I almost fell off my chair. I mean, the thing is, it seems like he's like spending a lot of time to try and make sure that this girl knows that there's not going to be dating between them, right? He says before they have sex. He says after they have sex. In admittedly a very like, it's trying to like clearly make a joke to break the tension. Although the other way that this is being painted in this allegation is that like this girl's about to leave the room. She's kind of nervous. She didn't really want to be there. He's like forcing himself on her, like throwing his tongue down her throat. He's throwing her onto the bed, pouncing onto her, and then walks off to the bathroom. Comes back, friends, yeah. Okay. This would cause me for the rest of the event to feel like I was taken advantage of and ashamed of myself for not trying to stop the interaction. Well, did you say that you didn't want it? Right? Did you give like any indication that you didn't want it? Here's the annoying thing, okay? Especially with casual sex. Casual sex is risky. There are risks with it, right? This is why we don't obviously allow children to like have sex. But there is an assumption of risk, right? There's an assumption of risk. And unfortunately, you can have instances, like this, where neither side has done anything morally wrong, and still one of them comes out of it feeling very, very upset. Maybe she did feel nervous. Maybe she did feel uncomfortable. He's kind of like tried to like start things off by like kissing her or whatever. Trying to like develop them, kind of move into the bed. There's an escalation there, right? As things kind of like heat up. And if she's not given any indication that he's, doing something that she doesn't want to do, I don't know if you can criticize him for that. Maybe you can that he should have like explicitly asked or like checked in, but I think that would be like a good thing for him to do. But I'm not going to call him a because he didn't do that. Okay. Though I tried pretending it was fine to everyone around me, I was and still am demisexual. I think what she's saying is that she as a person typically doesn't feel that kind of like sexual development upon like first meeting somebody, but whatever, like she'd been like texting for like ages. Is that not something? I don't know. The demisexuality is not important, okay? The demisexuality thing is not important. Nobody cares. And I would doubt that she's even using that label in 2011, okay? That's demisexuality is something that's been like invented on Tumblr within the last like 10 years. So that detail is just not important, and it's just there to like, I don't know, do some kind of like gender sexuality virtue signaling or something, I guess. So I maintained the friendship until a second occurrence happened at a completely different PonyCon in 2013. This time, we met in a public space, but had no one around and talked for a while. He kept bringing up the prospect of us starting a relationship, but how it felt wrong. So what? At this point, he still has the idea that he would have a relationship with you, or that it's on the cards to have a relationship. Surely at some point after, you'd have a conversation with like, listen, okay, what happened the other night? It was like really upsetting for me. I understand that you didn't realize that I wasn't into it at the time, but that's not something I want. Maybe you discuss your demisexuality. Maybe you can discuss how you maybe felt, taken advantage of, or like some kind of communication past that. A year later, and he's still like, ooh, should we, shouldn't we? Should we, shouldn't we? So, I decided that my crush on him was something I needed to get over, because I felt my emotions were being toyed with. So he'd grab my hand and say how it felt so right, only to push my hand away, but so wrong. I mean, if somebody's like genuinely getting like emotionally minded by that, that's way too much of like a casual like way to deal with it. And so I'd say that's like inadvisable. Is that evil or malicious? No. That just seems like a kind of social shut-in retard brony guy who's like doesn't really know how to have this. He's literally going to shake this girl's hand after having sex with her and saying, "Friends?" Like, yeah, this just feels like completely socially inept rather than any kind of like plot to manipulate or whatever, right? Anyway, I decided my crush on him was something I needed to go over because I felt my emotions are being toyed with. He then suggested going to a more public space around others, and we went into an elevator to go to the lobby of the PonyCon hotel. As soon as the door closed, Saberspark forcefully shoved me against the wall and shoved his tongue down my throat. It scared me and actually hurt, triggering another attack of disassociation. Once again, he did not ask for consent when throwing me into this situation. And what was all the stuff that led up to that? What was all the stuff that led up to that? I mean, here's the thing as well. The way it's being described, it seems like, you know, kind of being in an enclosed space, you know, putting your arms around somebody, kind of like pushing up against the wall and then kissing them. And that's kind of how it's described, but then asking for consent to kiss. It depends. It's going to depend how quickly it happened, right? If it's literally like an attack, you know? Like he's an orb weaver spider. No. You know? But if it was like it again, a lot of this is going to depend on how quick it was. This could be genuine. Would it be common assault? I don't know if this would be sexual assault. Is it sexual assault if it's a kiss? Or does that have to involve some kind of genitals? Anyway, some kind of like unethical behavior, okay? Some kind of wrong, inconsiderate kind of assault behavior. Very creepy, pushy, you know. Dude that fast and you'd both have fat lips. But that's the thing. Again, at this point, did you say to him that, you know, you didn't want this or... Okay. Bearing in mind, you've already had sex. You've had, like, casual sex. This seems to be like a casual sexual relationship. So much so that, you know, later on, you've maintained the friendship. It's like a friends with benefits situation. It seems like you have a crush. He's kind of like toying with it in his mind, like, should we, shouldn't we? Should we, shouldn't we? Should we, shouldn't we? And at that point, I could definitely see an angle to this where he's being like a bit of a fucking playboy, right? Or a bit more than that, fuckboy, right? He's kind of, maybe he is thinking, maybe I'd date her. Maybe I'd date her, but he's got other considerations. But he's happy to kind of reap the sexual benefits while they're not, you know, like dating. And so that could be shitty. But other than like fuckboy behavior, you know. Once the doors opened and people were present, this led me to feel very embarrassed. He got off and took my hand and guided me towards the stairs to go back down to where we were just where we just were, and into the men's restroom, where he pulled his pants down and guided my hands and head to perform oral sex on him. Well, surely, like, someone's taking your hand and, like, leading you into the men's room, and you go, like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, the women's are over there. I can't. What? Whoa! What are you doing? Oh! I was afraid of denying him because of past experience with sexual assault. So I did it to get over with, without warning, without wanting to cause a problem, where he could ejaculate onto my face, apologizing profusely, and then offered the same handshake he did. No, he did at the con I initially met and said friends. No! The handshake! Fucking hell. Okay, so I guess to give like a serious take on the other side for this, engaging in like public sex, engaging in public sex at a convention in like a restroom. Like I've heard certain things about like furry conventions, right? Apparently it's just a fuckfest with all the fucking like autist Eugens there. So it's just like huge fucking orgies that happen at these furry conventions. I don't know what it's like at the Brony conventions, but I don't know. Was this ever discussed on text? Because if this was discussed, or something like this was discussed beforehand, I'd say, that's alright, you should have had the wherewithal to say no. If this is totally out of nowhere, and he's just decided, it'd be fun to have sex in this public restroom right now, that's not something you just spring on somebody. You want to leave room for people to be able to, like, deny things, right? If this was never brought up before, this could be shitty behavior. Could it be rape? I don't know. So much of the context would depend on that. So I'm not sure. Despite pretending I was fine, I had slowly begun pulling away from Saberspark. I cried that night while staying with a friend, but wanted for that friend to fall asleep, so no one could hear me, and I'd cry for months feeling ashamed of myself for putting myself in that compromising situation with someone I hardly knew. Well, you said you've been friends for like a year, no? This person wishes to remain anonymous. They can be reached out for questions at the Sumnus5. Have they posted any tweets? Nope. Nope. I'll see if they do. This story, as well as more, will be included in the previously mentioned video expose by I Love Kim Possible a Lot, releasing later today. So I'd always felt taken advantage of by him and tried being friendly, pretending nothing was wrong, because it was all I knew how to do. I blamed myself for the interactions for years, only opening up to a few close people, questioning if consent was implied because of my crush and unwillingness and fear to outright try to stop the advances. I mean, fear to outright try and stop them. It'd probably be like, yeah, just saying like, what are you doing? No, I'm okay, thanks. What are we doing now? Are you sure? I don't want to do this. Right? That's all you have to say. You don't have to like push him off and like get ready to f***ing box with them. Deleted Brony video archive.
Let me see if I can find a good picture.
Is this them? Is this them? I can't tell if that's him or not. I can't tell if that's him or not.
Apparently you can cut
What does that say? What does that say?
ice with my nipples. I don't know.
I don't know, we need eyes. Hold on. We need cross analysis. What does that name tag say? Does that look like it says Saberspark? S-A, is that a B? Is that another S? Yes. Starts with an S. I can't tell if it's Saberspark talking. It looks like it. Or at least it's not dispositive of it. It seems consistent. And then what you're saying in this entire thing, this is the only woman in the entire in all of the convention photos. Brony Breakdown is a live stream show hosted by Saberspark and Paleo.
Didn't realize. Hung.
Was awesome.
That was awesome.
That might be, yeah. That looks like the only woman that I can see.
What do you think was the best cosplay?
Good question, actually. Oh, let me just.
What is going on at this convention?
Let me see if I can find they could also rag on the floor. Let me see if I can find a good picture.
Apparently you can cut ice with my nipples. I don't know. Didn't realize.
Oh, you can cut ice with my nipples. Is that him speaking? Is that him speaking? That's either him or Paleo. And that does not spell paleo. That does not spell paleo.
energy at the end of Red Shoes, but it's great because you see both characters end up loving themselves for good, wholesome, valid reasons and not just
Let me see if I can find a good picture.
Apparently you can cut ice with my nipples. I don't know.
That sounds like him. That sounds like him.
Didn't realize. It was cold in the convention. Should have brought a hoodie.
That sounds like them. That sounds like them. That sounds like them. That is them. That is them. It's possible he felt... Okay, here we go. Questioning his consent was implied because of my crush. It's probably because you went up to his hotel room and, like, you know, progressed from kissing to, you know, anyway. I understand that that's a possibility where he felt consent was implied because he knew I had a crush on him. That's retarded reasoning, but also I don't think that would be the reasoning. You don't have implied consent just because someone has a crush on you to, like, do whatever you want to them, right? However, he not once asked me for consent directly, and instead thrown into these sexual encounters, usually very suddenly. Whoa, 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 whoa. He not once asked me for consent directly, and was instead thrown into these sexual encounters, usually very suddenly. Usually very suddenly. Is there more than just these two? Is there more than just these two? Because these are the two instances of, the two isolated instances of rape. Had they had consensual sex elsewhere? Or another time? I'm not sure. Unless they're saying that what happened suddenly? The kiss happened suddenly? The restroom happened suddenly? I don't know. I don't know. Everything about these allegations have been sus. I don't know if they're sus. I think Gamma said that. I'm willing to admit that I'm willing to accept they're probably, like, legitimate. Like, somebody is behind, you know. This is probably a real girl. This is probably a real girl. But the fact that they've got, like, they're not put... As soon as people don't put their name to it, there is obviously, like, a level of credibility that you lose. But anyway. Are you going to watch the video that first part of the allegations? Yes. Although I found an archive of it. That the video came out after this tweet. The video came out after this tweet, not before it. There were no discussions about the power dynamics between... There were no discussions about the power dynamics between us as a popular content creator and a fan at the time. It was 2011. It was 2011. And my parasocial connection to him, and not wanting somebody I was a fan of to hate me if I reject them, leaving me afraid to stop his advances. I would understand this. I would understand this if he'd exploited that. It doesn't seem like he had, though. Like, the classic example of power dynamics being exploited that you know, go to in my mind is Austin Jones, when he's talking to women, or talking to young girls, realistically, and saying, don't you want to prove you're my biggest fan? Aren't you my biggest fan? Oh, my biggest fan would, like, show me their ass, right? That's what I'm thinking of when I'm hearing power dynamics. And this doesn't seem to be anything like that. Also, it's 2011. How big was he? A celebrity, anyway. Over time, I grew increasingly distant and would eventually end contact completely. I mean, yeah, it sounds like you drifted away. When, though? I don't feel safe enough to fully come forward. I don't want his fans and his friends, or even him, to harass or contact me publicly. I wish to stay anonymous so I can avoid the anxiety and stress of being targeted by him himself, his friends, and especially his fans. You don't need to go through that if you go to the police. I think if you want to make a public statement, you can. But if you don't attach your name to it, you're usually just not going to be believed. I've seen other instances of Saberspark using his enormous platform to confront people online he has conflict with or is unheard. I've also witnessed several instances of his friends attempting to justify him and his other actions. Okay, so his friends have like defended him over stuff. Okay. I was not aware of his jokes about consent and his recent behavior involving Chris until only recently, and it left my stomach in knots. I please ask, above all else, for my privacy to be respected. I don't wish to publicly defend my personal experience and just wish to share my experience. No, I don't like... I mean, okay. So this could be... Oh, Chris's Black Griffin. Oh my god. So is this in retaliation to that? Because apparently people are hearing stuff about this being like this being sat on for 6 months. The Black Griffin stuff obviously happened like a year ago. If you look at this KP person, they put out a community post on YouTube about this. Okay? We will be having a watch party on the video. Event info here. Remember, 10 a.m. new victim testimony drops. 12 p.m. EST video. It's a watch party, guys. Guys, we're having a watch party on these rape allegations, guys. How cool's this? How cool's this watch party on these rape allegations? Yay! It's like a whole ass fucking event for these people. Okay, so I've heard the concerns about the recent video and want to acknowledge that parts of it didn't land the way I intended. While it was reviewed by several people, including CSA survivors. CSA, child sexual abuse survivors, who were comfortable with the tone, I now understand that others experienced it very differently, and that's valid. This was my first time covering a topic of this nature, and I'm still learning how to handle serious subject matter with the right level of care. I've taken the video down and considering how to approach it more thoughtfully if it's revised. The intent was never to diminish anyone's story or experience. Okay. So if you go to her Discord and then take a look at the comments that she's posted in there, she's linked to this video several times. And if you look to the most recent one, yeah, it's been privated. I don't like that this video and then these tweets were like coordinated in like a video scheduled released kind of op. How many people were like coordinating this? If it's somebody who anonymously wants to come forward and just post a Twitter, a twit longer on like a burner account, that's one thing. But an anonymous accusation with coordinated by, you know, presumably, yeah, other people, other kind of like relatively large people in their sphere, that seems weird. And I feel like I kind of smell a rat almost. Okay. Let's have a look. Because thankfully, even if they deleted the video after, what, like a second, we do have it, okay? It got archived. Saberspark's team announced that he will not be streaming after this week. It was announced immediately after the recent allegations. So, hey folks, there won't be a stream tonight or the rest of this week. Saber has to catch up on a few things and wants to be 100% ready for streams to give you guys his full attention. We'll get the stream schedule sorted and update you guys soon. I mean, yeah, that could either look like very, very guilty or, you know, you don't want to address it, especially when, what, it's looking like this was kind of released or announced right after the video dropped. And so, what's his normal stream schedule? Does he have a Twitter or does he have a YouTube? What time does he usually go live? Because if this is coordinated all to drop just before he goes like live, so what? This is one of the main people involved in the Black Griffin allegations. or in pushing those. The same people who were going for going after Black Griffin, which, so far as I've heard, seems sus, but it has a level of plausible deniability to it. And now going ahead and trying to accuse this other guy from allegations that are over a decade old. This seems very, very weird. This seems very, very weird. Okay. So here we are, reviewed that, taken a look. Let's see this re-upload of the video. Now that we can't watch it on her channel, we'll have to just watch the re-upload.
This is a really serious conversation, and yeah, it's an important discussion here. So, because this is a really serious conversation, and I know almost nothing about sexual assault, I invited Courtney, again, she's all over this video, to talk about, like, what is consent, and when's consent.
I know nothing about consent, okay? I've never personally been raped. Anyway, here's my mate. They've been shagged in the arse loads, and they fucking hated it. Go on, Courtney.
Consent is there, and when it's not there, we're having a great time here at the worst video ever, and just kind of break it down so we have a better understanding, and all you nerds out there, don't do something really, really bad like this. Don't do it. Hi again, Courtney. Welcome. You'll be in the video everywhere at this point.
Hello, everybody. It is I. I have returned once again. So happy to be here.
You're here to talk about an alleged rape. What is this whimsy?
So I've shown you the testimony at this point. What are your general vibes on it besides icky and sad and sad and I don't know. This is just like super triggering to me because yeah. So I thought I'd also bring you in here to hold my hand during this. But yeah.
In terms of the testimony, it's just kind of heartbreaking, really. It's always heartbreaking to me when people question their own sexual assault just because of the lack.
Okay, but the question that we should be here to discuss is whether this was or wasn't sexual assault, no? I DM'd you chat messages you should check out after this. Oh, thank you. Hold on. First of all, I've just been sent this. So this looks like Blue Sky. If you don't know what Blue Sky is, it's Twitter, but gay. Okay, so they retweet that. Hang on. This is nothing like the project KP tried to drag me into. Hang on, this is nothing like the project KP tried to drag me into. KP a while back asked me to read for some expose she was working on back in December. And even then, I thought I thought it was an expose about some guy associated with Saberspark. How long have you sat on this? So they're getting to the point where they're asking people to voice lines for it back in December. They've had this information for over 6 months then. Over 6 months. So there's no confusion. I believe the accusation. Fuck! Stand on your fucking principles! But I just hope KP discovered this later, because the alternative is that she waited on an anonymous accusation of assault for months, only to drop it hours before her vid dropped, like this was a hype piece. I mean, that's what seems to be the case. Confirming that KP did discover this information late in the production of an expose she was already working on making. My feelings on I mean, if you find out that somebody's alleged to have raped somebody, is that really something like, woo, that's fine. I'm already making an expose on one of his friends. I'll just tack that on at the end. Hell yeah. Especially when stuff discussed in this video is like racist jokes. It's okay. Well, it's not so much an expose as it is like a hit piece. Okay, my feelings on KP aside, I fully believe the accusation and wish my support towards those others coming forward. Agreed. Saberspark is flat out done. Guess it's time to unsubscribe from that guy. Yeah, there was never a question for me. The only problem I have is how the information is being disseminated, not what the information is. The guy fucking sucks. Oh my god. So this is in the Art CC then? I didn't realize that... Okay. I didn't quite realize this was so heavily in the Art CC, but I guess I should have realized now with the fucking anime drawings for their like figures. So it's like a believable victims crowd. Oh man. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Thank you, Spark Rizzle, for sending me this. What's this? In the chat of the video with the Saberspark allegations, Courtney, a major person in the video, was hostile to anyone questioning anything, Lamau, even saying, this is a victim, along with me asking for more info, because they said it early in the premiere there would be proof. Okay. Courtney, who is Kirby? Super Kirby lover, probably a 12-year-old, says, I don't even know DA games, and I don't like Saberspark. I'm giving my genuine feelings here. I'm not trying to complain. I'm giving my genuine feelings. At Kirby Lover. So you just came to complain. Okay. Jesus Christ. Okay. Spark Rizzle says, is there more proof for the essay that's going to come out in this video? You guys promised more info, but you guys just talked about it. There isn't proof. At Spark Rizzle. Like what you want a video? You want the girl who didn't know she was going to get assaulted to have a video? Huh? No, just like show like something to corroborate it. They're like completely anonymous. You can easily give evidence of the victim knowing Saber. Yes, corroborating evidence, exactly. With text logs without showing who the victim is. Just show Saber's side of the messages, or just blur out who they are, and like redact personal information. That's usually the way that it's done. At Spark Rizzle, that's not proof of SA. You asked for proof of SA. Fucking autists! I'm a several-time victim, alright? And I don't have evidence of some situations. I understand when people don't believe me. Like what? Stop deflecting an answer! Stop prattling on about your rape, okay? I want you to know, I want you to tell me the epistemological foundation that you want from me to prove this essay. Jesus Christ. Okay. I don't think I'm going to like this Courtney lady so much.
Of education around it. And like, something that I just want to say to anybody out there is a consensual sexual encounter is never something you're going to question afterwards. Okay?
That's not true. That's not true. You can regret consensual sexual encounters all the time. Huh? This person's talking out their fucking arse. That's a way too broad of a statement. A consensual sexual encounter is never going to be something you question after. That's not true. That's not true. It's very common. It's very common, especially with casual sex, for people to have had an experience that, in the time, was consensual. They later go on to question it, and they're not sure. There are some factors that feel weird in retrospect. And then eventually they just think, it's a little bit weird. Some weird stuff happened, but no. My consent wasn't violated. It gets worse. Please, it can't get worse.
Like, you just don't question a consensual encounter. Sure, you may have a consensual encounter that's unsatisfying. You may have one that you regret, you may look back
uncomfortable. You can have one that's very uncomfortable. There's social dynamics where you can like question whether there was like a certain degree of pressure there. Both men and women have this. You can wonder whether you felt like, completely able to like say yes or no at the time. And it might have been fun. and you might have actually enjoyed it and like said yes, but then thought like, I don't like the situation that I was in when I consented to that. That's completely fucking normal for any adult.
Want to go, you know, if I could make that decision again, I probably wouldn't. But people don't question consensual sexual experiences with, did I just get violated? To be quite honest.
Way too broad.
And like the other
what,
thing...
are you a fucking rape scientist? What is this woman's... What, she's speaking as like some kind of expert. She's coming on to tell this Kim woman, this KP woman, about consent. Is she a rape scientist? Is she a Rogering researcher? Huh?
Kind of breaks my heart is there's one point in her testimony where she questions if I'm remembering this correctly, that like maybe she was at fault because she had a crush on him, like maybe she gave the wrong signal or something.
No, retard. Fucking hell. Have you read the fucking... I literally just read it for like 2 seconds on stream. I wasn't even involved in the behind the scenes. I'm not being brought on to be an expert for fucking rape. All she said is, did he think he had implied consent because I had a crush on him? Not that she was, what? She deserved it because she had a crush on him. That's an insane rephrasing.
Maybe she implied something, or he thought consent was implied because he knew there was a crush on her. Like, in all honesty, consent is never implied. Like,
do these people have sex? Do these people have sex? Almost all sexual consent is implied. Almost all sexual consent is implied. 99% of consensual encounters around the globe never have a verbal, explicit, do you want to have sex? Yes or no? The vast majority. 99%. These are the people pushing this fucking allegation, dude.
like even secure, confident individuals in a sexual encounter will check in with their partner as things.
They might do. They might do. That's a good thing. I think when people do that, it's a good thing. But that's not obligated unless somebody... If people don't do that, they're a rapist? No, that's a good thing to do. I wouldn't judge somebody for not having done that during a sexual encounter, especially if something seems off. You're getting some weird signals. Her credentials are that she was apparently raped. And I don't know how that gives her any fucking, like, validity to fucking, like, say anything. I don't know how that gives her any extra experience to be able to talk about this or make these points. If you want to learn about steaks, okay? If you want to learn about steaks, are you gonna go to if you want to learn about steaks, are you gonna go to the cow? You're gonna go to the fucking butcher. Get P. Diddy on this video. Get Richard, get not Richard Branson. Who's the rapey Englishman? But get me on the, no, sorry. Get Russell Brand on this video, you know? If you want to learn about art, ask an artist. If you want to learn about rape, ask a rapist. It's simple.
Things escalate and change gears, and they'll say things like, you know, are you okay? Should we keep going? Is this good? Like, because consent is not something that is implied. It's never something that's implied.
Okay, even in that, right? She's talking about people checking in. She's talking about people checking in. So before that point, are they having unconsensual sex? Is the simple question. If there's never an explicit agreement to have sex, never an explicit verbal, yes, I want to have sex, I swear on this Bible, I consent. And they check in later, all the way up to that check-in. Have they been raped? The answer is obviously no.
It's not, an absence of a no is not a yes in any regard.
Yes, that is true. There are other things that can indicate a yes, though.
An absence of resistance is not compliance. And even in that regard, compliance is not an invitation.
Mm-hmm. Because this girl had a crush on Saber, it was okay that he just kind of initiated things. And then especially, too, in the elevator, in a public space, when he's just much larger than her, like, physically.
These people are just taking it as read, aren't they? There's no discussion that this is totally anonymous, and there's no, like, text logs to back this up. They're just taking it as read that this is true.
I don't know. It's all icky, but, like, what would you define
She's using it again.
Consent as, and when would you define, like, obviously this isn't it for sure, but go ahead.
And in terms of like a definition of consent and what it is and what it isn't,
Oh my God.
consent is an excited yes. Consent is
Oh, no. She's not talking about affirmative consent. If she's saying an excited yes, she's talking about enthusiastic and affirmative consent. I thought we'd got over this.
exuberant, what's the word I'm looking for? Payback, for lack of a better term, I guess. Like, two people in a consensual encounter engage in a give and take. Like, it's never just one person doing all of the action and the other person just laying there like a bump on a log.
Have you never had sex with a woman? Most women don't do shit. Most women do just lay there like a fucking doll, okay? There is no give back at all. When women have sex with men, they expect to be served. End of. They feel like they're doing them a favor by letting them have sex, and then it's just like, to be done to them. Lazy as fuck. We call those pillow princesses. I call them women, okay? This is an epidemic. No. I see what she means. No, I am joking. But in truth, that's a lot of the time, it doesn't necessarily need to be, right? Some women just are quite sexually passive. Implied consent absolves all, like rape and AI gorilla emoji. Thank you, Major Windy, for the 3 Australian. Check DMs, okay.
It's an action that two people engage in.
I just want to highlight this chat from Noz right here, known female chatter. And they're right to feel that way. Get to work. I mean, people saying that, no, that doesn't happen. No, that doesn't happen.
And it's consensual. 9 times out of 10 when it's...
What the Babka? What is it with the women of color in my community tonight? What? To be fair, this woman looks like she's been Bill Cosby'd, okay? This woman looks like she's been Bill Cosby'd, so to be fair, this might actually be rape. So, bad example. Bad example.
One person just using another person's body for sexual gratification, that's not a consensual encounter. That is just a violation of somebody's person. And it's actually not actual encounter. That is just a violation of somebody's person. And it's actually pretty common for like sexual aggressors to attack somebody like in a innocuous sort of sense, like in the elevator, especially at like a convention or something like that in public.
I don't think is that true? I don't think so. I feel like I feel like sex criminals are usually going to attack somebody, or there's going to be rape in a private setting. It's going to be in a private setting. It's common for them to do it in public. It depends what you mean by public, I guess.
Public, because it sort of dissuades the target or the victim from actually saying anything. Because like half the time people will think, well, this is being done in public, surely somebody's going to say something, so I don't have to. But the other part of them doesn't want to cause a scene and be...
I think they mean public as in hotel. No, they mean public as in like in the public, in an elevator, in a corridor, in a dining room, in a stairwell. Because she's saying that it's relying on other people to do this. I don't know. I've been groped in public countless times, so there may be something to this. Yes. People are assaulted in public, right? People are assaulted in public. But what she's talking about is like dynamics between people where one is like habitually abusing the other. Not like if you're going to be assaulted by a stranger, it is most likely to happen like in a club or something like that, in a public space. That's true.
Embarrassed because they're already embarrassed by the fact that they're being attacked, the fact that PDA in general is seen as like a sort of cringy, embarrassing thing. And like they don't want to draw more attention to themselves, especially while they're dealing with the fact that they're being attacked. And part of them just hopes that somebody's going to do it anyway, like step in and say something anyway. And the problem with the general public is they sort of fall into...
We are reading way too much into essentially what could be described. The facts described are he pushes her up against the wall, kisses her after they've had like prior sexual experiences and stuff, right? And they've been like, what, talking for a year? What are the details of that conversation? We don't know. We're not being told. He pushes her up against the side of an elevator, kisses her. They French kiss. And now we're going into this whole thing about how rapists like to assault their victims in public so that their victim feels as though they don't need to do anything because other people are going to. This is sounding intensely like as if this guy is like Machiavellian and intentionally planning this. This is going way too far. This is dramatizing it to a ridiculous degree.
The someone else will deal with it mentality, whereas everybody sort of assumes that somebody else is going to step in and say something, so they therefore then won't.
Well, the other thing I wanted to throw in there too is nothing that's illegal, but kind of the parasocial relationship of like, you know, it's always...
No.
It seems like it's a common thing where like, you know, back in the day rock stars would sleep with their groupies kind of thing, but now it's kind of more discussed that that's a paradigm that shouldn't really be abused. And especially when you don't really know someone in person, you know, like from the testimony, this is her first time in person with Saber, and he immediately jumps, not immediately, but he pretty much immediately jumps on her. So that also kind of...
No, even she's catching herself because she's trying to make it incredibly fucking dramatic, but it's not. What happens during groupie interactions in the 1970s or whatever the fuck, okay? There were loads of girls all around screaming, "Yeah, we love the Rolling Stones. Yeah, we love the Rolling Stones." It's like, do you want to come back and meet them? Yeah, I want to come back and meet them. They go back and meet them. It's like, how's it going, babes? Right? And then they shag them. Okay? That's the groupie interaction. That's why it's like dubious consent. That's why it's gross. Okay? Parasocial is you've watched somebody's content, you message them, they just start like talking with you. But at that point, it's no longer parasocial. And unless she is like a child, or unless he's clearly maneuvering that in some way to, you know, leverage that dynamic that undoubtedly exists there, right? Then it's fine. These are adults. And also, parasocial relationship she'd been a fan of him for what? A few months before that point? Before she messaged him on Skype? The second you socialize, it stops being parasocial. That's not quite true, but...
Kind of gave me a big ick. Any thoughts on that?
And one other thing I wanted to add in is that, you know, confident individuals in a sexual encounter don't have to assume that consent is there.
Here's the thing, okay? I mean, technically, you're right. But in terms of what we're concerned about, that's not true, okay? So for a parasocial relationship, yeah, it's a one-sided relationship, okay? And so it goes on, have you got a big brush for this? It goes on like this, right? So this is for one person, okay? And then this is for the other, right? And then at some point, they maybe they start talking, okay? So at this point, they start talking, okay? And from this point on, these are like the experiences in the relationship, how long these people have been in a relationship, okay? For this section, that's not parasocial, definitionally. But in terms of a dynamic that might be able to be leveraged, depending on how long this is, right? Let's say this period is like 10 years, and this period is a week, right? If this person has got all this parasociality here, and then they start talking, but then this involves this person leveraging the parasocial relationship over this person, then yeah, it is apt to talk about a parasocial relationship and like power dynamics there, right?
Because they will ask. And to be honest, the only time you're not asking or checking for consent is because
Cool Guy banned me. Did he? Why?
you know yourself that the yes is not there. And you don't want to hear the no, so you will not ask. Okay? Because if you think consent is complied and you think the person that is, you know, on the other end of it is actively participating, if you know the answer is going to be yes, then what do you have to lose by just asking? And being a responsible individual when it comes to sexual practice and just asking. And the difference between, like, rock stars sleeping with groupies comes down to, like, literally consent. Like, there's a big difference between, you know, the chick who's going to see the rock star perform and, like, flashing her titties while he's performing, and then going and flashing her titties to the bouncer to get backstage, and then flashing her titties in the rock star's face, probably making out with him a bit of her own volition, and one of them saying, hey, let's go back and sleep in the van. Like, there are multiple instances where consent is very, very clearly given by the groupies.
Huh? No? What? Where's the clear and enthusiastic yes? Where's the clear and enthusiastic yes? In a groupie situation. Huh? Huh? This is implied consent. This is implied consent.
While he's performing, and then going and flashing her titties to the
So implied consent only works when the woman is the first one to make the move. Huh? She's literally flashing him. She's literally flashing him. Now, obviously, okay, it's not the same as a man, you know, flashing a woman, okay? Some kind of fan, like flashing a music artist. But if she's flashing him in the crowd, and then going up to him and flashing him, he's not consenting to that. He's not consenting to that. There's an assumption that a man would, like, enjoy that, but that's not true, right?
Bouncer to get backstage, and then flashing her titties in the rock star's face, probably making out with him a bit of her own volition, and one of them saying, hey, let's go back and sleep in the van. Like, there are multiple instances where consent is very, very clearly given by the groupie sleeping with the rock star. And like, yeah, there may be a certain power dynamic, and like there absolutely is multiple instances of rock star.
What the fuck? The youngest alleged victim was 18, but most of the women were in their 20s when the alleged assault occurs. Well, Gaiman, we're talking about Neil Gaiman.
Abusing that to be like, hey, well, I'm famous, show me your titties. But there's a big difference between going, hey, I'm famous, show me your titties, and someone going, I'm showing you my titties because I want to sleep with you. Right? Like, just.
What even is her point here? Was this like a prepared thing where she knew she was coming on to talk about this? There is a difference there, yeah.
It's just the act of like basically showing you my titties is in most circumstances an invitation to touch my body, okay?
No, it's not. What? What? No, it's not. In and of itself? In and of itself? No, it's not. Huh? If a woman flashes her tits to a crowd, is she then consenting for all of those men to touch her tits? Or for random men to touch her tits? Again, we're talking in the context of, like, a groupie. If she flashes that guy her tits, that rock star or whatever, and then she's behind at the after show, no conversation, no nothing, he just goes in and has a good squeeze. Has she given him consent to, like, grab onto her tits by, like, flashing him earlier? No. Oh my god. Okay. This is the problem when you talk too generally about this stuff. This is what happens when you talk too generally about consent. You sound like a rapist.
In no way.
Or a virgin. Or in her case, a rapist virgin, I guess.
Is, I'm a big fan of yours, an invitation to touch somebody's body. And I also find it really, really weird.
Going up to their hotel room with them might be, though. And also, we've got no clue what these chat logs are like. They talked for a few months before they even met. And then they talked for a year before they met up a second time.
That this dude meets a fan, gets the inkling she has a crush on him, so he...
No. She messages him, and then they talk for months. They meet up, she goes up to his hotel room, he kisses her, then they move to the bed.
Invites her back to his hotel room. Okay, like, getting invited back to the hotel room has sexual connotations, and the fact that she...
Very strong sexual connotations. What's in a hotel room? A TV? Are they watching TV together? A bathroom? To be fair, maybe you need a piss, and you can nip back to my hotel room if you need to piss. There's also a bed. There's also a bed in the hotel room. It's a private enclosed area.
Realize that just shows how naive she was, and the fact that none of that was communicated. Because clearly, he knew what he was inviting her back to the hotel room for. Yeah. But she didn't. And
unfortunately, that's a shame, okay? I feel bad for her. If that's true, if any of this is true, let's say there's no communication beforehand. Well, let's talk about an abstract where a woman and a man, oh my god, like they meet at a convention or whatever, and he says, want to come back to my hotel room? And she doesn't know what's communicated by that. I feel bad for her, but he's not raped her. Just on that variable alone. Because she still has the agency to be able to say no at any time to any new development in the sexual dynamic.
And that just gives me like the major ick, to be quite honest, because like it's really as if Saber is acting like he's Gene Simmons inviting you back to, the hotel room, when in reality he's a pudgy brony YouTuber.
Exactly. He's a pudgy brony YouTuber in 2011 with basically no clout. He's not a celebrity. You're right.
Showing you his animations before he shows you his dick. Like, that's not the same thing at all.
Like, you think there is some kind of weird parasocial dynamic too that she felt uncomfortable, advocating for herself because, like, oh, this is the real Saberspark TM. Like, I don't want to feel like, he might say something.
Why are we asking this random cunt? Apparently you're in communication with the victim. Nobody else is. Why don't you ask her?
On Twitter, blast me publicly. Like, is there pressure, just generally speaking, when celebrities, have those kind of encounters with fans, I guess?
Of course she would have felt uncomfortable advocating for herself. Like, most fans don't get to meet their idol in person. So meeting your idol in person is already a very, exalted sort of status. Like, that's something...
Your idol? I thought he was a pudgy, retarded, teeny tiny, nobody fucking brony YouTuber. And her idol.
Most fans dream of but never actually get to. So once you put a fan in the situation where they're meeting their idol in person, something they dreamed, probably never thought would happen, but always dreamed would happen, no fan is going to do something that's going to jeopardize that, and that includes
How much are we fucking hyping up this fucking... Jesus Christ, Schrodinger's celebrity, yeah.
Their idol. And, like... the idol knows that, and for anybody to sit there and be like, well, what if so and so wasn't aware of the power dynamic? Like, they always know. You can always tell. You can always feel it. You can tell when somebody is fangirling, and to for someone who's going.
This is a fucking brony YouTuber. We're talking about his knowledge of social dynamics. Okay.
To sit there and prey on that and be like, well, I know you're not going to say no to me, or at least give me a hard boundary that...
Saberspark was a little nobody in 2012. If you can find me some evidence of that, because I can't find that anywhere. But it seems like that was the case, yeah.
Well, I know you're not going to say no to me, or at least give me a hard boundary that could possibly offend me, so I'm going to exploit that by asking things of you that I know you wouldn't say yes to in any other situation. And, to be quite honest, no fan is going to do anything. Most fans are not going to do anything other than fall into line with that. Because again, they're getting to an exalted status of getting to meet their idol in person. They've been a fan of this person. They've done art for this person. They've dreamed of meeting this person. They're not going to jeopardize that by offending that person by saying no.
You watch their fucking brony video essays on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And not that those relationships can't happen, but it's very tricky water as far as, establishing and acknowledging the power dynamic and discussing it before, even anything were to happen. But I don't know. My whole MO has never really been to go date your fans because, it...
Yes, because you're a woman. Your whole MO is in dating is like a fucking Venus flytrap. You just, wait for them to come to you. Close your lip.
Like, your fans are not a dating pool. They're just, they're there to consume your content. I don't know. It just it's not...
Also, he's not reaching out to her. I would agree. If he was reaching out to her, that'd be very fucking weird. Very fucking weird. She's reaching out to him. She's contacting him. She's chatting with him. And they talked for months before they met up.
It's not technically illegal, but it just kind of ick to me.
Especially, okay, to get a little bit kind of into the mind of a fucking brony kind of furry freak for a second, okay? You've got a very insular community, right? People go to cons, people go to meetups, people talk on forums, right? It's like a true community, whatever, right? These freaks don't speak to people in real life. These freaks just speak to people online. At that point, if you're a well-known video essayist, are you then not allowed to meet people at conventions and maybe have hookups with them? This is the question. Would that be immoral? I just don't think so.
And in terms of dating your fans, I don't know, I just kind of miss the days where it was considered just not kosher to date from your fan base. That was considered poor form. Because, your fans aren't your peers, and I always question why, like, when somebody can't
Who do
pull
these
from
freaks
their
think they are?
peers, like, why is it that you can't, like, land somebody and date somebody who's, like, on an even playing field with you? Why does there have to be a power imbalance? And that's
Who says there has to be? This is the retarded fucking logic that goes into these fucking discussions sometimes. It's like, why does it have to be this way? Why do you have to do it this way? It's like, oh, they're done. But are you saying that they aren't allowed to? Like, they're morally, barred from doing that? That's not allowable behavior? But the question always boils down to, especially when there's no fucking, like, argument, or it's totally fucking retarded or vibes-based. It's like, why do you need to do this? As if this is, like, the exclusive way that people are going out and, like, pursuing only in this. That would seem predatory. Sure. Got no evidence of that, though.
it's always like the trend with these types. Like, if you look at, like, most of their relationships, there's always a power imbalance. And if you have a track record of having a power
So we're just speculating now. We're just speculating.
imbalance in your relationships, what is wrong with you? Like, why do you need to have a one-up on somebody in order to be in a relationship with them? Like, you need
Kinky?
therapy.
Yeah, it's so fun here. I think that's it, Courtney, unless you have anything else to add. Like, anything else you
Power
want to add
dynamics are fun.
that you remember from the testimony that you want to comment on?
Neil Gaiman's my favorite author.
You question if it's a violation, it probably was. If you feel violated, that was not consent. Your feelings matter. Your feelings are valid.
Retarded.
Consent is never implied. Real.
What about the fucking, oh, my consent is never applied. What about the groupie thing? You admitted that it could be in the groupie thing. And gave an instance of what? Just, oh my god, dude.
So I made a quick little guide. KP's guide to dealing with bad people in your community. Number 1,
Okay.
Listen to someone if they have a serious concern, and make sure they have screenshots if possible. And if you're too busy, get a mod team to help you with this. Number 2,
Wait, what?
Possible. And if you're too busy, if they have a serious concern, and make sure they have screenshots if possible.
Make sure they have screenshots if possible. Your standard of evidence for kicking somebody out of a Discord is higher than bringing these allegations into the public and asking for justice.
And if you're too busy, get a mod team to help you with this. Number 2, if the screenshots are damning enough, skip step 3 and remove them from your space. Number 3, if there are no screenshots, confront the person with the issue stated and get their side of the story. Have others weigh in on the decision.
Did you ask him? Did you ask him about this? Have you reached out to comment from him? I don't think they have. I don't think they have. It seems like this is just supposed to be, like, sprung on him. Have you confronted her? Have you confronted either of these people?
If it's a hard one. Number 4, and get their side of the story. Have others weigh in on the decision if it's a hard one. Number 4, make a Google Doc with problematic or unsafe behavior so it can be shared with other communities and this person can't prey on another fan group. Number 5, look out for name changes and general suspicious behavior, especially in fandom communities. All in all, these people seem to be unsafe around children because they don't seem to care about holding anyone accountable. And Saber probably didn't think all this through because he didn't think it was going to be public. Oops. Hashtag sorry not sorry.
I've heard a lot of concerns about the recent video, and I want to acknowledge that part of it didn't land the way I intended. They've tweeted since. I'm disappointed in KP's video. Somebody coming to you with the most traumatic events in their life is not ammo to make memes about somebody you don't like, as though it's all a big joke. Don't let this undermine the victim's story. They are what matter. I'm leaving again because this is triggering as fuck to me. I've experienced a very similar situation myself with a Brony around the same time. People really don't understand just how toxic that era, especially could be for women in the fandom. Gotta go distract myself. S. Don't let this undermine the victim's story. They're what matters. I'm leaving this because it's triggering as fuck. Okay. Bonk here. I don't disagree with Sophie at all. I was more than disappointed to see how the video came out. Everything I was told that would be in it was buried and scattered. It wasn't what I expected either. Please, however, don't push this as an issue. I talked to KP personally. I brought up my problems as I was watching and experiencing them with everyone else, and she unlisted the video and was going to reevaluate it. By the way, she unlisted the video. She said, it's still there for anyone who wants to watch it, and then she privated it because it got too much. This was not how I wanted this to go, but she was listening and taking steps to fix it immediately. I wanted to work behind the scenes to fix this because I did not want to have a hate mob go after Kim. I don't fucking care. I mean, she's throwing around fucking, like, the allegations of the most serious fucking manner, no? Like, the most heinous allegations you can be a part of. Or you can have attached to you. Again, I understand the criticism. This is a bad way to handle it. I wish I knew how the video was going. This is not an issue. It was up for not even a fourth of a day. It can't harm anything, and Kim isn't against fixing it. Yelling is less than pointless. No, okay, I understand this. The very fact that that is how she produced the video after working on it for at least 6 months. 6 months ago, she started getting people to produce lines for it, right? So the fact that she's been producing this video for 6 months, and then, after 6 months of consideration, that's how it comes out, that shows something about her thought process. I didn't give a fuck about the harm. I don't know if anyone was harmed by it, but it shows that she doesn't give a fuck about these allegations. She's throwing them around just to smear people. Just to smear people. Yes, it harms things, bro. It's serious stuff. I mean, okay, to be fair, I haven't watched the video. Okay, I haven't watched the entire thing. I've just watched the section on Saberspark. It harms him, for sure. It harms him. And it's fucking like, it's propagated these bullshit allegations with no evidence. It's just a constant, like, conversation about how he might be a rapist. But other than that, there's nothing there. I assumed that she was talking about harm against, like, what? The community? Harm against victims? I haven't watched the rest of it, but no. If I didn't care, I would have linked if I didn't care, I would have linked the video the moment it premiered. I wanted to watch it first. That's why it was never posted here. I'm aware of the victim, and I have reason to believe them. The testimony is not based on that video. Please focus on it instead. Okay. But, yeah. So, I just replied and asked if they're going to give anything more. Realistically, I don't know what's going to come of that. I think there's been a lot of backlash already. From who? From where? I've genuinely got no clue. It seems to be coming from, like, inside her own community. Hence the reason for the community post. But what's the reason for the retraction? No clue. No clue. It seems to be making memes, and people thought it was, like, handled, like, carelessly. I mean, it's just clear that she doesn't even care about him. Really. Doesn't care about the, Okay. She doesn't care about the victims. She doesn't care about these stories. She doesn't care about holding somebody accountable. The only thing she actually cares about is, like, having a juicy story. Right? That seems pretty clear. That's the only thing she could possibly care about with this. These people keep saying they've seen proof. KP has too, but refuse to prove it. They haven't seen proof. They haven't seen proof, or the proof they're describing is incredibly limited. Incredibly limited. It's going to be like a photo of them together that we've already seen. It's going to be nothing. It's not going to prove it. If they had stuff that would actually convince the public, and they thought would convince the public, they would have provided that. They would have provided that. She herself knows how to fucking handle this. She's talking about redacting personal information in the screenshots, okay? So it can stay public. She knows how to do it. She knows how to do it. She knows how these things, like, should ideally be, like, handled with. She just doesn't do it. She just doesn't do it. It's pretty clear she just doesn't like the guy. And then bring on some fucking random cunt to hypothesize about, oh, he just wanted to rape her. He knew he was raping her. He just wanted to rape her. And, like, bloviate about consent. I don't know who this retard is. But apparently they're a rape expert. Maybe they have raped. Maybe they know what they're talking about. And I'm full of shit. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. That's that. I don't think there's anything else to cover.